And welcome to the new season of the Cardinals Nest here on HBC Channel 25. And once again, joining us for the 2009-2010 season, Sports Information Director Donny Nadeau. I'm Dean Beckman. This is the sports show on HBC devoted exclusively to St. Mary's athletics and other St. Mary's events. Donny, it's great to be back for another season. Later on the show, we'll have the men's soccer coach, Chris Dembiec, on. And I know over the summer, you were very busy adding new features and new tools to the St. Mary's Sports website. Tell us about some of the new multimedia features that you've got going on.
It seems like every year we're adding more and more things. A couple of the things that we're doing that are kind of new and exciting and really show how old I am. Obviously, we now have a St. Mary's Athletic Twitter page. We're on Facebook in terms of St. Mary's Athletics, and we're also on YouTube, so we've got our own YouTube channel. So all people have to do is go on to stmarysports.com, and on the right side you can click on any of those new features and join us, follow us, and
is spelled
become
out
a friend.
St.
And yes, yes, it is. And it's fun. It's exciting, and it kind of connects you with the idea is connecting us to the students nowadays. I mean, they live on Twitter, they live on Facebook. They're on YouTube all the time, and these are things. My idea was let's go where they are. Rather than having them come where we are, let's try and get where they are. I know we'll talk to Chris a little bit. They've got a men's soccer Twitter page as well. So we're tweeting and we're twitting and whatever else you do, and it's a lot of fun.
I can't wait to ask Chris if during a halftime he's going to update us with some tweets.
That'll be me. I'll be tweeting at halftime. So
no, that's great. And the social media are terrific. They do add to your workload, though, and I know that you're not getting any extra help for it, so we appreciate everything you're doing in that regard. And you're right, it's a good way to stay connected with the fans and the parents who don't live around here, and it's just sort of the way the media world is working now.
Right, everything is getting faster and more immediate, and right now, I mean, really with Twitter, that was the idea I had. Is it's an opportunity for me to let people know almost instantaneously what's going on in a game, especially our home games that I'm usually at. So you could send out a tweet that says, hey, Bobby Gass scored, St. Mary's is up 1-0 in the first half. It's just another way to keep people connected, and obviously with so many of our athletes being from out of town and from far away, it's another way for their parents and their friends to follow their activities as well. So hopefully it all works out.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will. And you've got some YouTube videos posted already. Chris Dembiec, our guest today, is up there. Eric Zimmerman, the women's soccer coach. So you've already got a lot of videos posted. Now I want a video of the athletic department poker party.
Yes,
that's what I want up there next.
And I will definitely be a part of that one. So absolutely, the YouTube is another one of those neat mediums that is kind of exploding right now. And obviously, we'll have our Cardinals Nest on there for people who are outside of the HBC coverage area, and so we'll get those posted as well, which is exciting for me because I love doing this show, and I think it's great for the local community. But Mrs. Smith out in Aberdeen, South Dakota, doesn't get to watch it. So this is again another opportunity for us to expand our horizons. Obviously, with the great help of HBC, and we'll get their name out there a little bit, and so it's another exciting avenue. And I feel like I'm learning everything all over again because these are all mediums that as an old timer who used to use a typewriter, this is all new. So so I'm kind of learning as I go.
It's new, it's fun, it's exciting, and it sort of summarizes too the upcoming sports season for St. Mary's because the teams are going to be improved this year. We'll talk to Chris about the men's soccer team a little bit later. Before we get to that, though, let's start off with women's volleyball. This is a team that loses Teresa Perini, and yes, that's a big loss, but Mike Lester returns the bulk of that squad from a year ago. They've already started the season against Viterbo, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. The big Sugarloaf Classic, the home tournament for St. Mary's, is coming up this weekend. But first talk about Teresa and the loss and really the leadership that she provided to that team.
Well, really, you hit it on the head on that very last comment. Is her leadership, her presence out on the court is going to be missed greatly. And there's it's something that happens every year. A coach has to replace players, and like you said, we'll talk to Chris about it. Fortunately, we won't have to because he didn't lose anybody. But it's one of those things that you just have to do. And obviously some years are easier than others. Well, with Teresa, you're losing not only just a physical presence and a great libero on the court, but also that she just carried such a great load of leading that team off the court as well, and that's certainly going to be missed. But like you said, they return so much firepower that it should be a very exciting year for them. Obviously, you talk about returners, you got to look at Jess Mate, all-conference performer last year, and you got Amy Kuyak, who had a great MIAC tournament last year. It's going to be a very exciting year, and obviously they started out with a loss against Viterbo on Tuesday, but having talked to Mike after that match, it was more like, we needed to get a match in. We've been practicing and going up against ourselves, for 2 weeks, and we needed to get a match in, and he kind of looked at it as just that. Viterbo had already had 6 matches in, so they'd had some, playing experience, and they'd been working on that team chemistry. Well, this is the first time that St. Mary's was on the court against another opponent. So I think it was more just, let's get our feet wet, let's get ready for the Sugarloaf Classic, and go from there. Viterbo is a team that's not in the NCAA. They're an NAIA school, so it doesn't really hurt them in terms of their regional rankings or anything like that. So it was more like a glorified, we counted it as a loss, but it really was more of a scrimmage than anything else.
Right, and this weekend with the Sugarloaf Classic, certainly want to invite the Winona community to St. Mary's, and this is going to be in this Gostomski Fieldhouse, where there'll be several different matches going on, a couple of Wisconsin schools and a couple of Iowa schools in the Sugarloaf Classic.
Yeah, it's really, we've hit just about all of the states in the area. You're going to have Viterbo again, you're going to have UW La Crosse, you'll have Milwaukee School of Engineering. We've got a couple of familiar faces in St. Thomas and St. Catherine. And then you've got Loris and Luther out of Iowa. So we are hitting a lot of different states. There'll be 9 teams here, and play starts Friday at 4 o'clock. They go 4, 6, and 8, and then on Saturday they pick right up and they go 10, noon, and 2. So it's a busy 2 days of volleyball, but there's going to be some outstanding volleyball there. Loris is a team that went to the NCAA tournament last year, so that'll be a great team. St. Thomas is always a great team and should really pose some great competition for teams, and it's just a lot of fun to get all these teams together. The Gostomski Fieldhouse has 4 courts in it. We use 3 of them. There's volleyball going on, basically from the time they start at 4 until the time they quit after those 2 o'clock matches on Saturday. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Right, and
a lot
later,
of work.
Yeah, a lot of work too. Later in the year, we'll get Mike Lester on the show. But last year, the Cardinals, after a relatively long dry spell, made the MIAC playoffs. That's got to be the goal again this year with so many returning players. You mentioned Jess Mate probably will be the kills leader again. Brittany Cherwinka is back at setter. She had a good game against Viterbo. So I've got to believe the playoffs is at least the goal again.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting. Last year when we talked to Mike, the goal was to get to the playoffs. I think this year just getting there won't be enough for them. Obviously, last year they really, and Michael admit, they were lucky to get in. They all of the tiebreaker procedures went their way. They were in as the 6th seed. They traveled up to St. Ben's and they beat St. Ben's, which was the 3 seed, and then lost to Gustavus in the 2nd round. So obviously they did a lot better even than I think Mike thought they would do. But just getting there again obviously would be nice. But I think Mike wants to get a little farther than that. He wants to get past that quarterfinal round, and he wants to actually be pushing for a spot in the championship match. So he's got the talent to do it. Now it's a matter of him being able to create that right chemistry, that right rotation for them to be successful. And obviously a season opening loss is going to do nothing toward their quest of getting to the conference playoffs.
Yep, big weekend though with the Sugarloaf Classic as they look to get back in their winning ways. Women's soccer now, Eric Zimmerman back for his 2nd year as coach, and a successful first year overall. They didn't score a lot of goals, but I think Chris learned a lot about his team, like the men's soccer team. It was very young, and he has a great goaltender coming back. I mean, there's really a lot of parallels between the men's and the women's team going into this season.
I think if you look at last year for Coach Zimmerman, the biggest thing was that was a great learning experience for him. First year as a collegiate coach, and I think he kind of understood that, this is you're facing some top-notch teams, and you get into the MIAC, and we'll talk to Coach Dembiec about it when he's on. The MIAC is just so tough. Top to bottom, the teams are so good that I think that it was a real eye-opener for Eric, and I think it was a good learning experience for him, and it was a good learning experience for his athletes. They were on their 3rd coach in 3 years, so that continual turnover of coaches is a tough thing. So for them to be able to come in this year with the same coach, understanding what his expectations are, understanding the way he coaches, I think it'll make just that even the beginning of the season that much better. You know, you talked about an outstanding goalkeeper. You don't get many better people than Mariana Sanchez. She's a great individual, and she really is a fantastic goalkeeper. Honorable mention all conference last year. And when you think about that, for a person that's coming on from a team that did not win a conference game last year to be honorable mention all conference, that's saying something about her ability
right.
as an individual. And you could meet her on the street, you'd never know that she was was a college caliber goalkeeper. She's just so level-headed.
Yeah.
Just a
I remember
smile
she
on
was
her
on
face
this show last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And usually when you see the Cardinal mascot walking around, she's usually the one that's inside of it. So
yeah, she's a great leader.
yeah.
They return Amy Sibic as well, so I think we'll see good things from the women's soccer team this year. Moving on now, cross country. The cross country team is underway. The alumni reunion event is coming up shortly as well, but tell us about their first matchup.
Well, actually, it was interesting talking to Coach Barrett last night. They had their first meet on Tuesday. It was a triangular with Wayne State out of Nebraska and Winona State, and it was a 4K for the women and a 6K for the men. And what was interesting is that's what all the people run in high school. Usually in college, it's a 5K or a 6K and an 8K, and so it was kind of nice for Ward to be able to see what his athletes ran in a 4 and 6K now compared to what they were running when they were coming out of high school. And like he said, the times were far faster now than they were when the kids were coming out of high school. So obviously their training is improving their times and whatnot. But in terms of what are you going to take out of a meet like that, well, there's really not a whole lot you can take out because the distances are so completely different.
Right.
Obviously he's pointing to that Alumni Open, which is September 12th, and they're looking forward to that one to be able to really kind of see where they're at. They've got some great individuals coming back. John Velez is back, Michael Mockler. And, basically Ward lost a few, but not too many on the men's side. And on the women's side, he's got Emily D back, who continually improved last year. And Joanna Pace is back, and Brittany Keene is back. A lot of good returners back. Ward is hoping for sure that this is a year that they make a step up in the conference standings. And
then finally in this segment, Donnie, we'll get to the golf team, and they had a duel with McAllister. The women's golf team did, and even though they lost that matchup with McAllister, they did have a medalist in that meet.
Yeah, Caitlin Rizzi was the medalist. Caitlin's a senior out of Austin. She's been the heart and soul of that team for the last. Now this will be her 4th year, and it's really good to see her start out with a great round like that. She shot 84 at Mississippi National out in Red Wing, and for her to do that on that first match, I think it's perfect for her, setting that bar where she needs it, and hopefully she can continue to lower those scores. I think she will be one that when we're talking in mid-October about the conference championships, I'm hoping that she's going to be one. She and Gia Pooch will be the ones that we're talking about for all conference honors, because both of them are definitely capable of doing that. On the men's side, we lost a lot. We lost a lot of good, talented golfers. In Josh Wendell and Andy Roberts in particular, they were both two very solid men's golfers. But we returned some good golfers as well. Tony Hines is back. Rob Klein is back. Those two were 3-4, 2-3 in the lineup a year ago, and obviously are picking up right where they left off. Tony had a 78 on Tuesday in their duel against McAllister. So there's some good golfers there. It's just a matter of Coach Stengel putting it all together, and kind of like we talked with Mike Lester, finding that right chemistry. Right. He's got a number of good freshmen coming in, and he's got to figure out what that lineup's going to be. And he has basically until early October to figure that out before the conference championship.
And coming up this weekend, the golfers will participate in the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire Invitational. Coming up next here on the Cardinals Nest, we'll bring in Chris Dembiec, the men's soccer coach, right here on HBC.
The weather affects us each day. It determines how we dress, our family plans, even our mood. And while HBC TV 25 can't control the weather, we can provide you the information you need to plan better. We'll bring you the latest weather information featuring state-of-the-art forecast equipment and Doppler radar. Plus, you'll be able to find weather 24/7 on my.hbci.com. HBC TV 25, your news and now weather source.
Back here on the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching HBC. Dean Beckman along with Donny Nadeau, joined now by Chris Dembiec, the men's soccer coach for St. Mary's. And Chris, you are now in your 4th season as the head coach, and I guess if we were to equate you with one of the players, this would be your senior season, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but that's got to feel good now that this is your team's under your belt here, and you can go out there and have a pretty good command of everything that's going on, and have a little more control over what took place in the past too.
Absolutely. I think, you know, we finally have the players in that we want. Our first recruiting class are now juniors this year. Yeah, we do have some senior leadership, which has been lacking in the past since we didn't have seniors last year. But it's been overall, it's been a wonderful camp, and we certainly do feel like we're in full control of our successes now.
You know, you look at this team, and we talked earlier in the year that last year there were times you had 9, 10 freshmen on the field at the same time. You know, okay, now those people are now sophomores, and that year of experience, while you did take your lumps for it last year, obviously should really pay big dividends this year.
It has, and you know, we can see it in our trainings right now already. And what's interesting is watching the development of those players that had all the minutes last year, how mature they are even in a practice scenario, and even comparing them to even our good players as freshmen. They're good players. They're going to find some minutes, but we don't have to count on them and throw them to the fire right away. And so the trainings have even mimicked that, you know, where we can rely on the guys that have had the experience, yet the younger ones are certainly going to play an integral role, but more in a learning role. So.
You know, it's nice this year you do have the 3 seniors. Last year when we had you on the show, there were none. But
Right.
Talk a little bit about the importance of them. And obviously, you know, at the top of that list has to be John Safransky, your goalkeeper, his 3rd straight year of being your goalkeeper, all conference last year. And again, that's a huge honor in itself. But talk about the leadership that they possess and the importance that they are to this team.
They are, and you know, there was my first year. You know, they were able to learn what I am all about and what the attitudes and things that we want to be able to create within the team. For us to count on them as captains and senior leadership this year is phenomenal, and you know, they've done a great job growing as people, and again mimicking those attitudes that we want to possess as a group. And so you know, this year it's their year to really kind of display it and show it, and you know, show the young ones that this is what they're going to be like as seniors as well.
Obviously, we're talking about Lucas Vellini and Jermaine Walker along with John, and that's kind of your defensive core there. You know, all 3 of them are defenders. Is defense going to be one of the strengths this year for this team?
It's going to be certainly better than what we saw in the past. You know, last year I felt like we have a good core of defenders as far as personnel goes, but there was an attitude missing, and that's what the change is this year. And we have a very senior heavy defensive line. They can see the entire field. They're the ones that they're able to you know, make the adjustments that they need to make and communicate it. And through Jermaine, Lucas, and John, all 3, which we expect to start in the back line, we're going to be able to see that kind of leadership there. So,
well, last year John tied a school record 152 shots saved, and so I would imagine you'll be happy to have him not have to save that many shots again, right?
It's a good and bad thing. Wonderful for John, and just horrifying for John at the same time. We don't expect that he's going to have to make that many saves, but we certainly are. He came up huge last year, and he's certainly going to be counted on to make those big saves when we need him to make it this year. John's had a wonderful summer. He played with a team in Madison that was one of the top level teams in the United States and in the Midwest for sure, and lost some weight that, you know, he needed to lose in order to really take his game to another level. And I think as good as he's been, this is going to be his best year yet.
I think we got to put John on the spot just a little bit, and especially because he's not here. But when you meet John, if you get to know John, John comes across as a tough guy. You know, he's got the shaved head and he's got the scowl. But you know what? John's one of the nicest guys you can ever get to know. So I hope the opponents aren't watching this. But you know what? John's a great kid, even though he really tries to come off as that tough guy. And obviously on the field, nobody's going to mess with him.
Absolutely. You know, his presence alone is just scary. And he is off the field. Is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and but it's really nice to have that presence, and certainly in a goalkeeper, you need a bit of that. So
talk a little bit. You know, obviously recruiting now for 4 years. Looking at your roster, you've covered 6 states and 2 countries
Yeah.
on this year's roster, including a player from Nairobi, Kenya, and another one from England. So talk a little bit about your philosophy in terms of recruiting, because you've hit quite a few states with this year's roster.
Yeah, I feel like we don't compete very well with the Twin Cities, and I mean, we have 6 schools that we're competing against there, and not that we don't. And if you look at our roster, we certainly have very good players. We have a newcomer in Gunnar Knudsen who we're looking forward to getting some serious minutes this year as well. And but overall, we're looking to go other places. We found success in Chicago. We found some success in the Milwaukee area, and then to add that little international flavor has been nice. And certainly, you look on our roster, we have 2 other countries represented, but we have players actually from 8 different countries, those that have been in the United States for a few years or so, but 8 different countries represented, and they bring a nice flavor and a nice different aspect of soccer, which we can kind of meld into what we want to be able to accomplish too. So we do have some luxuries there too, and it's been fun.
Offensively, Chris, Bobby Gass, you're going to look to for some leadership this year?
We are. Bobby Gass is going to be a player that, he's one of those freshmen we threw to the fire. He was a 135-pound freshman last year. He's a 155-pound sophomore this year. Still has lightning speed, and we're certainly going to be looking for him to be able to score some goals. Add Steve Boozy to the mix. He's a player that's done a lot of defensive duties for us in the past, and he just has a fierceness on top of the ball, and now you put that fierceness in front of the net, and I think we're going to get a lot more opportunities there. So Steve's another guy that we're going to be really looking toward as far as goal scorers go. And then we're deep in that position. We have players like Christian Reyes, one of our players from Mexico, who's a senior this year, who is going to be at this point is going to be a backup. And for him to say that he's a backup is wonderful, because again, he was one of our scorers last year as well. So I think we're right on par. I don't think we have a one guy show. I think that there's going to be some spread scoring, but I do think that we have some very talented guys to be able to do it.
Have you stressed at all to these guys the importance of that role? Because obviously, you look at last year, you had 17 goals in 18 games.
Right.
You're not even averaging a goal a game. So obviously, you need them. They have the ability. Now they need to transform that ability into reality and into putting the ball in the net. Do you stress that at all in practice, or how do you go about changing that ability into some goals?
Right. In soccer, numbers of goals scored isn't a stat that we look at, but certainly scoring in the opportune moments. And you get the same amount of points for winning 1-0 as you do 4-0, and you certainly want to be able to give yourself a little bit of room in case mistakes happen on the defensive end of things. But overall, we're looking for guys to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that they get, and that's what we've really stressed in practices. We've stressed, hey, this was an opportune moment. We need to put those away. Not
to completely turn the switch here, but let's talk a little bit about that field. You guys haven't got to play on your field yet. You'll get to Saturday night against Martin Luther, and I stress night because it's going to be the first of many night men's soccer games at St. Mary's. It'll be the first one ever that we've played on our campus in a night setting. Talk a little bit about the field itself, but also the importance of getting that that excitement about playing under the lights.
Yeah, well, history's being made at St. Mary's on Saturday nights, and it's going to be a wonderful atmosphere. I think anytime that you have a night atmosphere and you can get people from the community as well as the St. Mary's community out there to be able to watch the match and not have to miss classes or things, you're going to get a great party atmosphere and be able to be excited about the product that we put on the field. The field itself, we are very lucky to be able to train on that on a daily basis. I think it's going to be an absolute huge advantage. It is different than playing on a natural surface, so you're going to look at some advantages there, and we're going to be able to deal with the pace of the ball and the pace of play a little bit quicker than other teams coming into it, and it's a unique advantage. I think this will become one of our staples as far as a home advantage. So,
Chris, we have time for one more question here. Have you set goals for this year's team? You're still going to be young, but looking to build upon what you did last year. I'm sure.
Absolutely, and we're careful about setting these goals that are hard fast. If we don't win this many games, then we're considered a failure. We're more or less, we want to be in every game. We want to be competing for every game. We certainly, if that's happening, we're climbing the conference ladder. And so all of our guys are very excited about it. And we have a very hard last 4 games of the season. And in those last four games, we want to be competing right there for a conference spot. And that's really our goal. Can we come into the last part of the season competing for that conference spot and have our conference go, oh, how did St. Mary's climb here? You know.
All right, Chris Dembiec, thanks so much for joining us, men's soccer coach, and good luck and have some fun Saturday night.
Thank you very much. We will.
All right, stay tuned. Donnie and I will be right back with more here on HBC.
These days, everyone's talking about saving the environment.
And at HBC, we're doing the little things that you can do that really make a difference.
Like recycling our bottles and cans.
Or shutting down our computers at night to help save electricity.
Or setting out bins for our excess paper waste.
And even something as simple as turning off the lights.
At HBC, being green is just another way we're helping to build a better community.
For more tips on having a green lifestyle, visit our website, my.hbci.com/green.
Dean Beckman, Donny Nadeau, back here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC. Thanks for watching. And in this last segment of the Cardinals Nest, we'll take a look at some of the other non-sporting events coming up very soon at St. Mary's University. And we'll start out, and Donny, I know you're going to appreciate this, a fiddling poet. I mean, you like the outdoors. You like to read. I bet you like poetry. And so Ken Waldman is for you. He's going to be appearing and performing and meeting people. It's free, 7 p.m. In the Toner Center, the President's Room on September 8th. He has published 6 full-length poetry collections and a memoir about his life as a touring artist. Also 7 CDs, all since 1994. So a very accomplished performer and poet, and he'll be appearing for free on Tuesday the 8th at 7 p.m. Also appearing will be Joel Kramer. This is going to be a week later on Tuesday, September 15th. Joel is the founder and editor, also CEO of MinPost.com. And Donnie, I know as a former newspaper journalist, you can appreciate this. He's going to be talking about all of the changes that are taking place in the newspaper industry, a big shift to multimedia. Obviously, he writes for an online-only newspaper, and that will also be free. It'll be Tuesday, September 15th, 7:30 p.m. in the Filio Recital Hall. Also, St. Cloud artist David Seberson is exhibiting a portion of his ongoing series called A History of the Plains, and that will be through September 27th at the Lillian Davis Hogan Galleries in the Toner Center. Seberson began his series after visiting what was left of his family farm and noticing that the farm buildings that once dotted the landscape were burned, bulldozed, and buried beneath high field yields. And so that will be from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, the closing reception from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 26th. And finally, the Minnesota Conservatory for the Arts is beginning its 2009-2010 season of Winona Area Youth Singers, a new youth choir for students in grades 4 through 8. And the registration for WAYS will be accepted at the MCA Registration Open House on Wednesday, September 9th from 4 until 7 p.m. at the Valencia Arts Center. So Donnie, again, that's our first episode of the Cardinals Nest, and I really like incorporating all of these non-sporting events at the end because I think it showcases the many wonderful things we have going on.
Absolutely, and I think you hit it right on the head right there. Is there's so much going on, and it isn't just athletics going on, but there's so many other things going on, and you know, there's a lot of things to do on campus, and there's a lot of different things. Obviously, we hope that the people can make it out to all of our athletic events, but there are also other things that they can do as well.
That was just a partial list. Thanks for watching the Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Tune in again next week.